Greetings, YouTube. I watched a video just today that dealt with one person's position on why the Federation is so human-centric as it is presented to us, the viewer. Now, they actually came up with some in-universe justifications for it, and I don't really agree with those in-universe justifications. I think they're kind of bull, because the reality about it is that the show is human-centric because all the actors are. And all the people in the 60s playing the characters were just, the aliens we had were this little forehead things. Now we've gotten to the point where CGI has gotten so good that we could actually have real aliens that kind of look like Saru in Discovery. Definitely looks less human than a lot of other main character aliens, because you can actually get certain things that look a little different, but also the guy in the costume is also on the fringes of what humans are physically. He's very tall, very thin. He moves in a somewhat strange way. He's just happened to be Doug Jones. Just happens to be a very unusual person and has made an entire career out of that. But Orville's has done a really nice job with aliens that look much more alien, which is awesome. But within the Federation, there isn't any reason to justify why it is so human-centric. There just isn't. It is supposed to be a council of equals, and yet every ship is almost entirely human. Now, the video I watched said, well, the problem would be, would Andorian captains and Vulcan officers be able to work together? If you can't, then you're not in the Federation. If you can't put your personal prejudices aside, then you don't get to be in Federation. They're going to have psychological tests for that kind of thing, really good ones. And they're going to be hiring people, bringing them on board who can, in fact, be a Vulcan officer, working with a Vulcan officer, an Andorian officer, or a Bajoran enlisted person, what have you. Even though the lowest ranked Federation slot, I think, is ensign. I don't think there's no really enlisted, because it's an all voluntary institution. I don't think there's anybody that isn't considered essentially some kind of ranked member. There aren't just crewmen. Are there just crewmen on board? There are so few of those in my memory. They seem to be, most people have some kind of rank. They're all volunteers, and they're all specialists of one variety or another. But let's face it, it's just because the actors are human. A true Federation ship should have relatively equal amounts of every race that is available to the entire Federation. And back in the original, it was like 300 worlds, and I'm sure by, that those numbers of members just grew over time, though I don't know what the height of the Federation membership is, say, in the Picard era, which is the most recent thing I've looked at. I haven't seen any of the third season of Discovery at all. So I can't tell you about that. But I have seen all of Picard. It was fun. Had flaws. It made no sense in many ways to me, but it is what it is. And I'm really tired of aliens wiping off their personalities to pretend they're humans. Yeah, that's getting old. But let's face it, they should be equal. X number of humans, X number of Vulcans, X number of Klingons, just an equal breakdown of the different species. Maybe it's going to be based on the base that the crew's put together from. So if you're in this region of space, this is the selection of species that would be on board. If you're in this section of space, so there would be some regional variations, but each ship would have an equal breakdown of different crew members. I know that in the new upcoming one with Pike, I think there's supposed to be more diversity amongst the crew, which is going to be very welcome. And now, if you look at the Star Trek animated series. It's still human-centric because all of the main characters are human except for Spock, who's half human. But they had real aliens on board because it was animated. So you could really have aliens on board without having to worry about, elaborate practical effects and in an area where there was no where there were no computer graphics. So in that case, they could have real aliens, and it was awesome. It really was. If you have never seen those episodes, go get yourself a copy. It's not hard to find copies of that series. Not too horribly expensive. It's really wacky, and it's canon, and there are some strange-ass things in that show. I recommend it. But I want to see true diversity amongst the Federation crews. I also want them to shove their bioconservatism out an airlock. We need to get rid of that. They're deeply bioconservatist. They also seem to have almost no understanding of the utility and beauty of AI. Sure, you may be afraid of unshackled AI, but robotic systems could do so much in the Star Trek universe, and they don't. It makes no sense. We use more robots and drones in 2021 than Star Trek does. It's baffling. So let's talk about how you think the racial or the species divergence of Star Trek should be. I think it should be far more varied. That we should have in a 300-person crew, there should probably maybe only be 30 or 40 humans in the whole damn thing. And that, to me, would be a hell of a lot more interesting.